What's crack-a-lacking, y'all? It's Madman Manny, and today I'm going to teach you how to play SRB2 Kart. Now, I'm not going to get into what Sonic Robo Blast 2 Kart is, as you should already know what it is since you clicked on this video. We're just going to jump straight into it and starting with the most important thing that you need to know. Drifting. You hear that, Rio? This is for you. Now, the first thing that you need to know before drifting is your character stat. The stat that your character has determines how long it takes for you to mini turbo. The character stat is based on speed and weight. Speed determines how fast your character is at top speed. The lower your speed is, the faster you accelerate, and vice versa. Weight determines two things: how good your handling is and how bump code affects you. Bump code is a unique mechanic in this game that allows players to bounce off each other like bumper cars. The higher your weight is, the more you can bump around others at the cost of bad handling. The lower your weight is, the better your handling is, meaning that it's easier for you to make tighter turns and position yourself on the track. It can be used to great effect when you know everyone's stat. The higher your weight is, the wider your drift angle is. However, you can't adjust the arc as freely as you could with a lower weight. The combination of these two determines how fast your character can mini turbo. Characters on the lower left of the graph can gain a spark faster than a character on the upper right of the graph. Now with that out of the way, we can get on to learning how to drift. Like how Sonic games should be, SRB2 Kart has momentum. So the faster you're going, the more momentum you have. Drifting also applies to this. As you're drifting, you gradually slow down rather than slowing down instantly like in other kart racers. So the faster you're going, the earlier you should drift. Before you start sparking, you go into a state that I call a slide. You can press the drift button while pressing left or right to shimmy past items or hazards behind you or in front of you. It's very useful in most if not all cases. Keep holding the drift button and you'll eventually spark. Drifting inwards allows you to gain sparks faster than you would if you drifted outwards. However, drifting inwards makes your turns sharper, while drifting outwards makes them wider. After you let go of drift, you enter a boost-like state. While in this state, your speed, acceleration, and handling are much better for a short amount of time, meaning you can pull off stuff like this. There are three types of sparks. Blue is the shortest, red is slightly longer, and rainbow is the longest. You can also store your drift while in midair, allowing you to keep drifting as you land like nothing ever happened. It's extremely beneficial and can sometimes be the determining factor to whether you win or lose. If you drift store off a ramp, you won't be able to gain any more sparks until you hit the ground. If you drift store off a springboard, you can still gain sparks as if you never left the ground. Just be careful about your angle so you don't fall off the map. Braking while you drift off a ramp can help, which leads into brake drifting. It's a good idea for beginners to slightly brake before drifting to get used to how drifting works in this game. Before you know it, you won't have to brake at all. Brake drifting also keeps you from hitting a wall or an item while you drift. You can also chain drift by gaining a blue spark, letting go of drift, and going for another blue spark immediately after the first one. This is extremely useful if you want to catch up quickly as well as making wider turns. However, after the turn, you won't have as much speed as compared to drifting normally. Slip tiding is a unique mechanic that you can do in this game that allows you to take better control of your kart, as well as making U-turns without reducing your speed. With a sneaker, rocket sneakers, or the situational boost pad, all you have to do is drift, boost, and then let go of drift while boosting while still turning inwards. You can also tap drift while boosting and turning inwards as well. It might be difficult to pull off at first, but it'll eventually become second nature. But be sure to determine whether you need to drift or slip tide on a turn. Alright, now that the biggest obstacle is out of the way, let's move on to items. Getting items is just as you expect. You hit an item box and wait for the roulette to stop and you get your item. You can also hold down the item button during the roulette to get an item faster, but it'll be a worse item than you would normally get, so use caution. If you drag the items behind you, they'll slow you down, so unless you're positioning the item, let it go. Orbiting items won't slow you down, however. Sneakers are the mushrooms of the game. It's pretty self-explanatory, just hit the item button and you get a speed boost. You can use these to go off-road and use off-road shortcuts. They also send you farther off a red spring or ramp because momentum. Rocket sneakers are the golden mushrooms of the game. You can either spam it to get back into the race or use it wisely to glide back into first. Either way, there's a limit to how long it's out, so if you get a boost, a small chunk of the gauge will be used up. Bananas are your best friend, unless you wanted something else. They can block Orbinauts and Jaws coming from behind you, and you can screw someone over if you snipe them. Just be careful not to hit yourself with it. Orbinauts are the green shells of the game. You can throw it in front of you, behind you, and you can ricochet it off of walls. When you get really good, sniping people with it becomes way easier. If you get hit while it's still orbiting you, it'll drop and the other players or yourself can get hit by it. You can also throw it behind you just as another item is about to hit you. Jaws are the red shells of the game, but unlike red shells, they go straight for the player instead of following the map. You can avoid it if you throw an item backwards to block it or bonk a wall just in time and have it explode on the wall. Just like the Orbinauts, it also orbits around you and you can throw it behind you to defend yourself from incoming items. The ball hog item throws 5 projectiles in front of you or behind you that can ricochet off walls and they'll disappear a little while after they're thrown. You can really mess people up if you throw them in closed areas and corners. Keep in mind that items that are thrown backwards are significantly slower than items that you throw forwards. The Eggman monitors are the fake item boxes of the game, but here they explode a few seconds after you pick it up. You can let it explode immediately if you hit the item button, or you can drive backwards like an ass and take someone else with you. Mines are the bombs of the game. You can throw it in front of you or behind you, but before it's set, players can kick it around like it's a game of hot potato. Once it's primed, it'll explode if anyone is near it. Be careful as the detection is pretty far. Also another thing, the explosion hitboxes are deceptively big, so be careful not to spin out. Invincibility should be obvious by its name. Like the Starman in Mario Kart, you're faster and nothing can stop you. You can go off-road without slowing down, and you can hit bananas without slipping. Just be careful with Orbeez and Jaws as you can bounce backwards if you hit them. If you hear the sirens of an invincibility or grow, pop up your orbiting items as they can be your last line of defense. Grow is like the mega mushrooms. You can crush people with it as you mow past everyone else. Your acceleration is multiplied, meaning that if you drift or hit a boost pad, you just go flying. Make sure you brake drift. You can't grab another item while you're big, so hold down the item button for around a second to deactivate the grow. Also, if you deactivate it while in midair or as soon as you hit a red spring, you can go farther than you normally would. Just don't drift store while on a yellow spring. Now, I wasn't expecting to get any footage of the shrink item, but lo and behold, they fixed the resync issue that's caused by the item. It should be obvious as to what shrink does if you played Mario Kart. It makes you smaller and you lose your items if you haven't used them. The only way to avoid this is if you're behind the person who used it, or you have an invincibility or grow. Hewdoros are the boos of the game. You can steal people's items with them. You can even hew a hewed item. On rare occasions, you can even hew a kitchen sink. When you get a kitchen sink, you can chuck it and pray that you've hit someone with it. If you land a hit, the person respawns and there's a big text telling everyone in the server that they got hit by it. The self-propelled bomb, or SPB, is the blue shell of the game, but instead of killing you instantly, you have the chance to outrun it the entire race. You'll know when it's coming thanks to the lock-on target on the minimap. Second place also gets an extra bonus as their items will be a lot better so that they can catch up or outright ruin first place's chance of winning. However, if first place happens to get a lower spot, the SPB will switch to its new target after a good 6 to 7 seconds. If you're right behind first place, and the SPB can make you spin out like you've hit a banana. If first place screws up and gets hit, they won't be able to move for 4 seconds. Use those 4 seconds to your advantage and clutch it out. The Thunder Shield is more or less the same as the Horn in Mario Kart. It can destroy any item and even the SPBs. However, you won't gain any protection from it if you get hit. There are two types of springs in this game, springboards and regular springs. Springboards are more common and come in blue, yellow, or red. Blue is the most uncommon of the three and sends you a super short distance. Yellow sends you at a set distance and cannot be manipulated by speed shoes, invincibility, or grow. Red springs, on the other hand, can have an adjustment on the launch distance depending on how fast you're going. Like I said earlier, you can gain drift sparks when you hit the springboards. Regular springs come in two flavors, upright and diagonal. Upright springs can send you in any direction depending on which way you're facing or drifting, while diagonal springs send you in a set direction depending on where they're facing. However, you can't gain drift sparks while airborne on these springs. Keep in mind that you won't be good when you first play. You're going to get your ass handed to you on a regular basis, so keep practicing online or use record attack to hone your skills. The main goal for newbies is to make it higher than you've placed on the race before, and then eventually you'll take a dub in the race. But remember, it's just a game, so have fun.